Alright, alright. Hey man, I'm Weather from the Summer School Discord, and I'm here to do a review following Jungle Evelynn. So Jungle Evelynn is a champion I really like playing actually, but I haven't played her a lot since the jungle rework, so I'm gonna be a little bit behind this meta. I'll have that confession there. Her overall role is still the same, but she has a little bit more trouble against these early powerhouse junglers you're seeing a lot of the times now. Stuff like Graves and Zhao, even Vi, make it really hard for her to secure those scuttles early. And because of that, she can fall behind in XP, which just means that not only are you a champion that wants to just wait till 6, but you're kind of denied your 6 until much later in the game, and then you have a little bit harder time playing it out. So a lot of what Evelynn's pathing should be, with this kind of thing in mind, right, where you're going against an aggressive early jungler, in those situations, is you want to figure out where they start, and you want to figure out how you're going to get the scuttle on the other side of the map. Just trade them would be the idea. So if you see that they're starting over here and they're going to go straight to this scuttle, right? Then if you start your blue buff and you go straight to this scuttle, you've secured yourself that extra experience, and then you can continue your clear normally, assuming they don't know exactly where you started, and that'll help you with your experience issue. In this specific game, since you're going against a Diana jungle, it doesn't look like it's going to be a huge issue for you to clear normally and maybe contest something, because Diana doesn't have a huge early level. In fact, if you get your charm off on her, she'll probably be walking away. You know, she doesn't want to get charmed. So you should have a pretty easy time playing this normally early. So anyways, whenever I start reviews like this, I like spending the first little bit of time before we even go into the game, right? It's still paused at 3 seconds, where we talk a little bit about win conditions. Whenever you pick a champion, either you're one-tricking or you're picking it because you're picking early, or you're picking because you have a plan. A lot of the times it's good to know what you're going to do. And I'll admit there are comps that are better than others, but there is no comp that lacks a win condition. Double negatives, I know, right? But you always have something you can do to win. You just have to play to that condition. So if you're looking at your team comp, well, and then you look at the enemy team comp, you're trying to think about where can you get a lead that you can pressure. And the only thing that matters in this game to win the game is a row of turrets and the Nexus, right? So your goal is to think, how am I going to get those turrets and deny them from getting our turrets? Simple conversation, right? Well, if you're playing this matchup, you know that Lux is going to have her pretty similar role as long as she's neutral or if she's behind. She's going to still have her crowd control to snare someone. She's still going to have potential to clear waves. If she's a little bit behind, she's still going to have that potential, because you're not going to want to take that harass all the time. So camping mid lane in this matchup is going to be pretty difficult to get a significant lead. You're not going to be able to put the Victor enough ahead early because he's a scaling champion to punish this Lux. So that's kind of what you're looking at. What will change if you go to this lane and you camp it? Or if you even go there once, if you go there twice. If you go to a lane with a Zed, right? And you go to the lane with the Zed, and it's level 3, and then it's your Zed, by the way. And you don't get a kill, but you blow the enemy's flash. You've done way more than you realize, because that Zed has kill potential then, whenever he hits 6. Undeniable kill pressure. So they're going to have to play so different in this lane once they are hitting close to level 6, and then after level 6, that you have pretty much won the lane if you go to a lane like that and you just blow flash. In this specific matchup, it's basically just looking at wave clear and potentially scaling. Neither of these are heavy roamers either, which is good for you because they're not going to really be going to other lanes. Okay, next I'm going to look at top lane. Top lane, both of these champions are ones that kind of just want to split push. Garen's going to eventually be looking for team fights, probably because he's not going to... Either he's going to get to the point in this lane where he's able to run Teemo down and just spin on him, or he's going to get to the point where it's neutral enough and it's just annoying enough that he's going to look for team fights. And if he's looking for team fights, that could benefit you guys, but it also could hurt you guys. They've got a lot of weird engage potential that could set up some fights, but it also lets the Teemo do what he needs to do and set up this side of the map for potential split pushing. So top lane is something that would be okay to try and see what you can get here. Now bottom lane is something that you could do a significant amount of work. With a little bit of a lead, you could get this lane to the point that it's able to consistently dive and just smash this enemy lane. Plus, the nature of this enemy lane is it's going to push. So you're going to have plenty of ganking opportunities to go bottom this game, because if Fiddlesticks wants to harass, he uses his E, right, his bird. And that's going to throw out this thing that bounces in the minion wave and on the enemy. If Ashe wants to harass, she volleys the minion wave to hit the enemy one time, right? This lane pushes, and it has no escapes. The escape it has is a fear, a silence, and a slow. And if you're thinking about that, and you think about Alistar and his combo, that's not going to matter. Alistar is going to get in, and he's going to do his combo if he gets his combo in there, right? Or maybe they choose to fear you away, or they fear the Alistar away. You still have crowd control in this gank. Your charm and your root. There's so much potential to gank this lane and to put it ahead enough to cause problems. Because if you get this lane ahead and you rotate them top wave, all of a sudden the Garen that has been building magic resist has problems against this now attack damage threat he deals with. Or if you get this lane ahead, you could then use the Alistar to dive mid, which then pushes them out of having any wave control. They don't have their wave clear. So this game, I would be focusing my efforts on bottom lane. And because of that, I know you're Evelynn and you're not going to be able to get too many early ganks off, but that doesn't mean you cannot get an early gank off. Never deny yourself the potential to do that. You either want to be looking then at getting like your 3 buffs, checking to see, because I said this is still an okay lane to gank, doing your casual top lane check. And if you don't see anything right away, recalling and start to do Krugs or something bottom so you're hovering, and then look to gank bottom. So that would be my game plan. And do you see how much planning there kind of goes before you even start a game? Whenever you're in loading screen, whenever you're picking your champion, you need to be thinking about what you're going to be doing. Jungle has, in my opinion, the second most access to the map, but a significant amount of access to the map. And the pathing you choose and the lane you choose to gank significantly impacts what's going to happen. I think mid personally has the most impact because every wave you can choose to either stay here, go into the jungle, go top, or go bottom. While the jungler, if you're correctly playing jungle, right, you're going to want to secure your buffs, which means you're forced to be on one side of the map at certain points in the game. So while the mid laner has access to every part of the map, every wave, if they clear it, you only have access to half of the map, half of the game, basically. This is a very good habit, what you're doing right now. I really appreciate standing out here to keep vision. Whenever you're doing this, just always make sure you're here and watching. But this is a very, very good habit to have, because so often people get these free invades off that are just unnecessary, and I have tons of rants on that on other people's videos, but you obviously know how important it is. And here's an example of how important it is. Yeah. Okay. So let's go into a little bit about how this can happen. You know exactly how this can happen, right? Well, if you're looking at where your lane is providing you vision, you know that the only route that it can invade is down here. So what I would be doing if I was Evelynn here is way back at this point in time, right? Look at how long you're just kind of waiting there. Watch where your laners are going, and you can either make the decision to ping for your laner to go and look here, or, since you see everyone's hovering around here, to just walk over here yourself. It's the same thing as waiting up here. If you have someone who's already providing you this vision, anything you're doing over here would end up being redundant. You don't need this vision whenever you have this vision. To be here is a good thing, like what I commented earlier, but you need to make sure you're guarding all entrances to your jungle. Because if you look at professional play, they have so much emphasis on these first few seconds of the game. That's why I've spent probably the first 10 minutes of this review talking about the first 40 seconds of this game, because it matters. If you look at this game and you're looking at the nature of, let's say, a surrender at 15 minutes. Why do you surrender at 15 minutes? Because it's unwinnable, right? Well, the reason it's unwinnable is because they've gotten so many kills, they've got so much money, and you just can't come back, right? Because they can do whatever they want. They can make whatever mistakes they want. Well, that's because this game snowballs. And by the nature of snowballing, the earlier the mistake is made, the more impact that has. So whenever you're thinking about this, whenever you're planning your game out, whenever you're just doing your vision lineup, right, this is the most impactful minute of the game. Because if you make a mistake here and you have 3 people die and Caitlyn starts with a BF, that changes the game. While if they get a double kill later on in the game, maybe they've already gotten, even CS, they're already 6, and then there can be reactions elsewhere, right? The later a mistake happens, the less impact it has until it costs you Baron or something, of course. But these first, 15 minutes of the game, right? The most impactful minute is the first minute. The second most impactful minute is the second minute. So make sure you're putting yourself down here, providing this little bit of vision. And you saw them walking down here with your vision. Why would the Diana be down here? Because you saw the Diana walking down here, you should have thought about what you were doing over here. Yeah, so this was a very impactful mistake. And that's probably going to cost you your red buff, so you're going to start blue, right? Well, it's definitely not a fun choice, but it's a choice. You don't want to look for this. There's no reason to look for this. Okay, so you're trying too hard to pressure this gank early. Whenever you see something happening like this, right? Let's go with you need to run a scenario in your head. Best case and worst case scenario of this gank. Best case scenario, you miraculously get a kill. You're still level 1 if you get a kill. And if you get this kill, you still are going to have to base. So you've lost this time, and if you got a kill here, it'd be on the Lux, right? So then Diana could potentially take your second buff because, that you can't contest it now. You're really low. This guy's really low. Your only option here is to get 1 kill and base. So you got yourself 300 gold. For 300 gold, you could have gotten, or rather, you could have gone to your blue buff, gotten this, and gotten this. Now let's look at a worst case scenario here. Worst case scenario here, you already know flashes were blown, right? All of these flashes were blown. You saw this. Worst case scenario is Victor flashes, has no health left, and he TPs back to lane. So you're not running these scenarios in your head, and you're panicking. And you're coming here and you're trying to help this, but you're not thinking about the consequences of doing this. So far this game, a couple of choices that you've made have put yourself essentially 2 minutes behind. Because now you're going to have to base again. There's no way you can do a camp like this. Well, if you do stay out like this, you're going to have a lot of difficulty clearing. You're going to do one thing in base. Oh my god, okay, I did not expect Diana to stay for that. Okay, well that was a very good pickup. Okay, so you've actually put yourself back in the game with those couple of plays. I did not expect the Diana to be here with no health. I would have expected her to be a little bit healthier. But, whatever happens, happens. And you did a good job kiting out your buff. So your game plan should still kind of be the same, right? Okay. So I see what you're doing here. You're looking for this mid lane gank, and this is actually a pretty good idea because you know her flash is down, you know her barrier is down. Victor pinged it. So this should be a pretty good gank, but I would have waited until I saw her use a spell, because you're just going to, yep. She just walks into it, though. Okay. Oh, you picked up another one. If you're going to stay for this, you need to make sure you're placing a ward down, because it's very likely Diana could be playing to this side of the map. I don't know what exactly she's cleared, but if I was playing as Diana and I was up here earlier and I just cleared my red buff, right, I would be predicting where you'd be next, and I would be trying to be towards the bottom side of the map because you were just clearing this side of the map, and there's no scuttle here. So this would be the next thing to go to, right? You also just showed mid at full health, so maybe the Diana's a little bit hesitant to be coming to this anyways. But I would be warding over here, because if Diana was coming to you, it'd be most likely from her going down mid lane, clearing wolves, clearing Gromp, and then coming to you. You have to be predicting the enemy pathing, and if you then can catch the enemy right here, you would, yeah, exactly this, exactly this. Very nice. Okay. Whenever you're doing something like this as well, you need to be paying attention to your lanes. You know that the mid can't come because obviously you just killed the Lux, and the bottom lane wasn't reacting. So since you didn't see anything up here and you didn't see anything down here, it was a very good safe play. You see Diana's holding mid now. She's got her own blue buff, I guess. Yep. Because that's what she was going to down here, her blue buff. Alright. So here's kind of something similar to what we were talking about earlier. You need to be a little bit better about judging what's the best and worst case scenario here. The best and worst case scenario here right now is Teemo gets out and he TPs back to lane. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is Teemo dies and he TPs back to lane. So Teemo is going to come back to lane. Same thing's going to happen with the Garen. He either dies and he comes back to lane, or he gets out and he comes back to lane. So right now what you're doing is you're actually looking at a full health Diana and a full health you versus a full health Teemo and a full health Garen. So in most situations, I wouldn't be looking for a straight out 2v2 until you're maybe 6 or something. I would be looking to find a fight where you have a very easy advantage. A fight where you have a very easy advantage, this game is not really available right now. Maybe mid, but you would have to flash to get this, and that's not really very promising. And bottom's in a kind of shit spot too. So what you're doing right now is okay considering the rest of the map. But the reason you're kind of in this predicament is your camp clearing has left you 2 camps on opposite sides of the map. So you don't have an optimal place to go to just to farm. And the only thing you can do because you can't farm is try and play towards what gank is the best, right? And you've had windows where you could have just farmed, right? Right here, you have no reason to recall. You have no reason to recall here at all. You're full health. You've got red buff. You know, Diana's mid. So whenever you're doing something like this, spend a little bit of extra time and come down and do your Krugs. This is a camp that you need to start considering because, one, they buffed the experience on it. And also, if you don't clear this, you're denying yourself gold. This is part of your minion wave. If you see like a Xayah miss a cannon minion and a caster in that wave, that's you not coming to Krugs in this situation because you put yourself in a position where you didn't have a beneficial place to go to just farm. Your pathing needs a little bit of work. And you even walk down halfway and then you decide to base. Just go to your Krugs. Coming up to here, like what I said, best and worst case scenario kind of plays out. I would be waiting for the Teemo to come back. Teemo's TPing. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about a best case and a worst case scenario from here too. It seems like you have a lot of trouble judging these things. You're not thinking about objectives at all so far. And you need to be thinking a lot more about neutral objectives and also towers. These are 2 very important things, and less about kills. The reason you came mid early is because you were thinking you could get a kill. The reason you came up here is because you thought you could get a kill, right? But if you got this kill and you were really low, right, what's going to happen is you're going to leave, and Garen's going to TP back to lane, and it's like you didn't even gank. It's the nature of this lane, at least, since he still has TP, is your gank and your kill on him here means nothing to this lane. He's going to TP back. So what you need to be thinking about is what can you get after a kill, because the truth of the matter is kills just of themselves, kills don't matter. Because you're going to get into this cycle of if you wipe the enemy team but you don't get anything after, and then you wipe the enemy team and you don't get anything after, and you just keep doing that, you're never going to win the game. Because the reason you wipe the enemy team, right, after that you guys all group and you take these turrets, right? Right, because that's what matters, the turrets. And the reason that you're like, yes, we killed them all. We can take these turrets uncontested. You don't have to kill their entire team to take a turret uncontested. You just have to play the map. So let's think about this like bottom lane. If you were letting this push in, like you would have to type to your team at this point because the Xayah is nonstop pushing this lane in. You'd have to type to them and say, hey, Xayah, let it push in. But if you came to this lane, you could then rotate up at least and try and get Dragon. And if you got Dragon, that would provide your entire team, passive sustain, which is nice. But even more than that, if you got the right time to come down here and you saw Diana was topside, you could guarantee first turret. And if you got first turret on this, that's like 3 kills. And you know what? If you got this gank off down here, that would be probably a kill anyways. So you'd be doing the same thing as up here. So it's kind of just like both a best case scenario and a worst case scenario of coming up here. But more than that, it's an opportunity cost. Every time you're coming and you're hunting down these kills, you're giving up the potential to get something somewhere else. Whether or not that's a dragon, whether or not that's a camp, whether or not that's coming down here and trying for a turret. There's so many other things to do on the map than rushing down these kills that you die for. So this 6 seconds, you're not even on the map, you know? And he's going to TP back to lane soon, so he's going to be back here. And guess what? He's 6, and you're only, I don't know what your level you are. You're like 5? It doesn't show when you're dead. You're 4. So guess who wins out on this overall? You're behind. You're behind. You can't be doing stuff like this. Don't hunt down kills, especially if you're underleveled. And that's the reason you're underleveled is probably because the jungle changes, which you're not used to. And I don't fault you for that. I wouldn't expect you to be 2 levels under top lane at this point. You're usually even. This new meta is kind of wild. But one of the reasons you're behind in experience is, again, because of this pathing thing. This is the first time you've cleared Krugs. That was okay. I would have tried that too. I saw exactly what you were going for there, and I would have tried the exact same thing. That was one of those scenarios where if in this situation, right, you're looking to just try and get a kill off of a kill, which makes sense. And if you're talking about what I was saying earlier, where a kill doesn't matter, well, if they both were alive and you never showed up to this lane, they could potentially get turret damage. They could potentially get a scuttle, and then also gold. Gold does matter. I'm just trying to make you aware that objectives like even blue buff, these things are valuable too. So you need to be considering the map. This is something I would have shown up for because I thought there would be a chance that Victor could get away. Because right here, this is about whenever you made your decision, right? About when you made your decision, when you're like, oh, look at this Lux. She looks very juicy right now. So I definitely would have done this too. I would be very hesitant to follow all the way through with this, though, because if you're watching the map right here while you're going up, you see the Fiddlesticks disappears up this way. And I'm not sure if I would chase this whole thing down like you did, but flashing into her is also flashing away from a potential Fiddlesticks, who was roaming up, but not really. If you were 6 there from, pathing better or not dying to the Garen, that would have been a kill. There's not a whole lot you could do there, so you kind of make the right call to back off. If you're going to do something like that, though, yeah, you need a ward over the wall because still was a very dangerous place to stay. You don't have a whole lot of respect and you're just trying super hard to get your buff. But by contesting these things like this, you're just putting your team at risk. Yeah. If you had vision over here, right? First thing you did, you warded over here. I know you did not have a ward, but you did have a pink ward. So you could have pink warded this instead of using your real ward. And you could have warded over here. Instead of Wing the blue buff, or, instead of going for the blue buff, you could have looked to turn on this guy. Victor would have had all of his abilities. He would have been ready for it. And you would have been able to get a kill out of that. You need to be seeing, this is all about predicting pathing, exactly like what you did over here with seeing where the Diana could potentially come to you, right? How can someone come to you over here? This is from the very start of the fight even, right? From this bush, you knew to put one in here. But if you put a pink ward in there, you might have even denied them vision to come back to contest your blue buff. It's a great habit to buy pink wards, but if they sit in your inventory, they're worthless. It's kind of like an investment, right? Whenever you buy a pink ward, this is the equivalent of a savings fund, which doesn't have an interest rate. But whenever you fucking put that shit down, you invest it in a mutual fund or something like that, and you're making money back. Because if this fucking ward sees one person, it's already, even if that person kills it, it's already worth it. Because this ward, if it denies if it saves a life, if it gives you knowledge of where someone is, if it denies them vision of you, it's already done something that no other fucking item in the game can do. Wards are the only thing, aside from, like an Ash Arrow or something like that, okay, sure, that can tell you where someone is. Other than standing in a bush. So to make them valuable, to get any investment out of this, you gotta fucking put it down. So don't be shy about putting it down. Some games I buy like 7 of them as like 80 carry. So don't be shy. Whenever you get a chance, whether or not you're just trying to secure Ocean Dragon or you're trying to secure Herald, pop that shit down. And if you're no longer bot lane, because you took the turret, then you better put it somewhere else because you need to use it. It's something that nothing else in the game can do. This is much better pathing. You're just doing a full clear right now. However, you also need to be looking kind of at the map when you're doing this. This is happening up here, so you should be looking for a counterplay. Your counterplay would be very easy to set up bottom right now with your pink ward and your level 6. So whenever you do this, I would be looking to keep the Alistar in the lane, tell Xayah to hard push this so it bounces, go get the scuttle, and look to come down. Because after that, you should have an opportunity to get an engage off. If the Xayah hard pushes and it bounces, which it will, but that's the way that kind of the turret works with this sort of situation, you're going to have a very easy and free engage on them. After you get that, it's very likely that you'll be able to either turn that for this tower or turn that for this Ocean Dragon. Let's see, what are you doing with your wards? You just put one down too. Did you put one down? Yeah, you did. Where the hell did you put that? Does it not show like that? Maybe it's just that this timer's kind of fucked in the... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just this doesn't work. But you see this fight that's happening down here right now? You could have been here for this because that's this lane. That's how this lane works. And you could have killed both of them without any consequence. Instead, do you know what you did? So you take a lot of extra damage here trying to take the scuttle, which is okay, I guess. And you see the Fiddlesticks walking back down here. And, okay, here's another trick to predict where an enemy jungler is. It's the same way you can kind of predict where you're going to walk. What buffs are up? Right? And you even put the scrying orb to see the Diana. So what's the Diana going to do after that? Probably go bottom. So I know I was kind of talking about how my plan was to go bottom for, I don't know, the past couple of minutes, but I don't think that you would have had a very good window to go down after you took the Scuttle Crab here. So I will admit that much. If you did come down, the Uzziah probably still would have died, and you wouldn't have changed that fight too much. So I'll admit that much. Took too much damage from the little scuttle thing. Alright. So here's kind of a tracking thing, right? So, okay. Be paying attention to this, right? It gives you, whenever they change Dragon to make it so it has like a sound effect on the entire map, well, that's great and all, but you also saw them. So, if the Diana's down here, right, what's the Diana probably going to look for next? If she's playing this smart, she's going to try and get vision in your jungle on your red buff. So she's going to be moving up and into your jungle. The Fiddlesticks, I'm not sure exactly what he would be doing. He might be looking for going on the Xayah, but Diana has every reason to be staying around here, and you see she does. You have vision. You need to be paying attention to your vision, right? She comes into your jungle. So whenever you're going for this play, the first one, right, you get the Lux, great. You still haven't seen the Diana leave. So you have to assume she's still here. What's she doing? She's going for your red buff. Where's the Fiddlesticks, right? Fiddlesticks surely he shouldn't be in this lane alone. So that means that it's very likely they've both worked their way up in your jungle right now. So this play is risky. Because you should have assumed that this play was going to be, a 3v2. But really, whenever you go and you're engaging something like this, one of the things that I normally talk about whenever I'm reviewing people playing tanks is counting. And it's not basic arithmetic, right? But it is. It isn't, but it is. Whenever you're going to make a play like this, especially as an assassin, especially as a tank that's going to engage, you need to think about what's the max. Two different ways of counting, right? The first way you count is what's the maximum amount of enemies that can be there. And whenever you're looking at the map right now, right? Okay, well, you did just see Garen here, and he hasn't showed back up into lane, so you count him. Because this is not counting anything but the maximum. He could show up to this. Maximum means +1. Ashe, +1. The two people you didn't see over here, +1, +1. 4, right? A maximum of 4. You only see 1, but you're not counting what you see, you're counting the maximum. The second way you count is the minimum that can show up for your team. And this is incredibly valuable in lower elo because people base or they turn around or, they ping on my way and then they change their mind. But watch them closely and count the minimum. Whenever you go into this, you're looking at 1 or 2. So what do you count? You're counting just 1 because you saw the victor back off. And you see? He does completely back off for half of that fight. And he still dies. But, if you're only counting yourself, are you really going to go in there 1v4 after you're seeing that he's backing off? Take some cues. Don't go in. Because then you're just giving turret damage and potentially a turret. And sure, you might get a turret in response because everyone was just sitting up here. But you could have gotten this turret anyways, right? Anyways, if you just wasted their time by letting them sit here. Or if you waited until they left because they weren't going to get anything, and then you took the kill, and you did exactly that. You both got turret damage on both towers, right? So you have a problem with really wanting to take fights. You don't track very well. You have some elements of tracking, but not all the time. You also have a very aggressive early style that in this meta I'm pretty sure is punishing. I would be a lot safer with the health you're willing to stay in your jungle with and then go to Scuttle with. I know Scuttle is something you can kind of easily take with low health, but you did see that Diana was sitting around here. And what says she couldn't have just started that Scuttle and then all of a sudden you wasted your time? You also need to be a little bit better with vision, and that's both whenever you're warding over the walls, how you use your pink wards. Like, this is to prevent enemies from tracking you in your own jungle, but this is not a very good spot for a pink ward, because it's not defending anything right now. If this is supposed to defend the enemy, like, defend you from having the enemy track you on your buffs, right? Right now, they have no reason to be tracking you because they already stole this shit. They already stole it. Why do they need to be here for the next, like, 5 minutes? Why do they need to be here? No, they don't have a reason to be here. So this pink ward is not in a good spot, and it doesn't provide you very much vision. It provides you a rotation vision here, right? But odds are you'd see that anyways from your tower's vision. So this ward is kind of a waste, and that's kind of the point I'm trying to get across. You've moved these around a couple of times, but you were shy about it earlier when it was defending a buff that you were actively trying to take, right? You were actively still trying to take this blue buff, defending it, pushing them away, but you did not pink it. While meanwhile, whenever you're just passing through your jungle, you feel the need to drop it down on something that's gone. You're not using these correctly. If you look at the cooldowns on your wards, by the way, that's longer than your fucking ultimate. So to bring it into perspective again, nothing else in the game does this, and it is literally more valuable than your ultimate because it has more of a cooldown, right? 184 seconds. And a pink ward, that's your secret to cheating. That's your cooldown reduction. But you need to make sure you're using them in a way that benefits you. This isn't defending anything, and it's not giving you any aggressive vision either. This is a losing ward. You can't do this. So right now, right, so looking at strategy at this point, you're kind of in a challenging situation. You're 5k behind because of what's happened so far. And this is a mix of mistakes from hunting down greedy kills to playing to the wrong side of the map to issues with your farming and recall timers. All those things kind of play into this. You have a very risky play style. And now what are you going to do to try and get back into this? Well, really, your best bet is still to camp bottom. If you're thinking about that you're going to try and defend mid lane, great. You can try and defend mid lane, but only if they're going to like dive the Victor, because if you engage this, Diana's just going to probably burst you, or you're going to ult away, and then you're not going to have kill potential later. Your best bet is to respond to this pressure is to create pressure somewhere else. Because if you bait them down here and you're an invisible Eve, right, you could probably kill a lot of the people that come at you because they think they're flanking you, but you then go 3 versus 1, right? And in this situation, you're not going to be able to provide really any wave clear. All you have is kill potential. And again, with this really risky fight that you keep taking, right, that was the average result right there, 1 for 1. That was an average result, especially considering how far behind you are. And you know who's fed on their team? Diana! Guess who you decided to fight? Diana. So that pink ward also that I mentioned, how it only would catch this rotation, you know, you didn't see the Fiddlesticks walking up over here because, again, this ward doesn't provide you enough vision. Sometimes the implied knowledge is as good as knowing something. So, for example, if you're doing this to prevent them from knowing that you're doing your buff, if you had a pink ward up here, right, and you had a pink ward over here, right, early game, you're still defending the Tribrush and you're defending top of your river, and they pass by, right, there's a chance that they warded this, which gives you implied knowledge that they did. And you could play like they did, right? Now, in a situation that they just walk by, you also have additional information. So the implied knowledge could still be there that, yes, your shit's warded. but it gives you more if you ward further out. More aggressive wards like this give you more in return. This is a losing ward. You can't do that. And this play was a risky and very even trade, and now you lost your wave clear, and now you've lost your pressure bottom because they have to come and defend this too. Realistically, if you went bottom there with your vision, you probably would have not gotten anything because they, or, you know, they probably would have taken your mid turret. And that's just because you did not see their rotation. Okay. After this, you need to be thinking about objectives, and this is your best chance to either get Herald or get mid turret. However, you know the Lux is up soon, and you know the Diana is still up. Diana's probably going to be going bottom because Scuttle and blue buff. So right now, you need to call your Xayah, and you need to do Herald. If you do Herald here, this will get you your turret, whether it's mid or top, and that will get you some gold for your entire team. This is an investment you need to make right now. And how do you know to do this? People that are alive and wave clear. People that are alive and wave clear means that if you go mid right now, check this out, Lux is here, she's going to wave clear that shit, and the only way you can kill her, or rather, the only way you can get this tower is by killing her. Which you do have the potential to do, but it's kind of hard to do with your setup and lack of vision, because you don't know exactly where the Diana is, and if the Diana is there, she can fuck you. So it's really risky to go for this play, while it's safe to go for this play, because you're assuming that Diana's playing to the bottom side of her jungle because the Scuttle is down here and the blue buff is down here. This is where she fucking wants to be. So going up and doing this gets you this tower anyways, and it denies them this later. If you're looking at Herald as like a value, right, I equate Herald to if you're even, it gives you 1 turret. If you're behind, it gives you half a turret. If you're ahead, it gives you 2 turrets. And that's just because they can't defend it if you're ahead. If you're neutral, then you still have the position, or you're still in the position to out-rotate them and put it down somewhere else. And if you're behind, you need a turret that's half dead, or you need a really lucky rotation where they're not paying attention in order to guarantee a turret. Because they can probably defend it with only chunking it down once and then clearing the minions and preventing you from attacking it and stuff. But right now, with the way that this map currently is, you could probably take this and look to put it down top wave and take the rest of this turret. So this is about that half a turret that I was talking about. So you can go in here and get your turret later. This is an objective that you're not paying attention to because you're just recalling. If you just get a kill and you base, you're wasting time. That's not how you win games. Now you don't have anything in your jungle really to clear. You are paying it probably attention better more than I am to which things are spawning, so you're coming down to the bottom side. This is better. Yes, yes, yes. I I would modify your build a little bit. You're rushing a lot of Magic Pen, but Evelynn does a lot better with things like Lichbane, even what's that thing? It's the Hex Tech item that pushes you forward, whatever that thing's called. But if you had that little bit of extra dash or extra damage from those things, you're going to be doing a lot more in these situations because you're basically doing true damage, right? But that doesn't necessarily matter when they're not building magic resist on her, but flat pin still isn't going to do anything to Garen. So this item investment is for healing reduction eventually. That's the only reason you're getting it. And the healing reduction, the only person you're reducing is the Fiddlesticks, who honestly shouldn't be that fed, but his heal probably isn't the thing he's maxing. He's maxing his silence. And it's not your job to get that healing reduction. Because you either go in and you kill him right away, or you've lost the fight. You're not going for healing reduction. But whenever you went in on this fight and you were lacking damage, it's because your build's a little bit different. You're not building to kill squishies right now. You're building for like, I don't know, some sustain stuff. And because of your earlier investments, you're in a position where your top lane kind of lost, you know, and there wasn't much you could do after he built some magic resist. I understand that. Because the Teemo's got magic damage and you've got magic damage, and the Garen's kind of a tank, so he can just walk away. But that's where the win condition of going bottom was, so that way you could rotate your AD carry up top wave and then force him to build armor. And if he just matched and he went down there, then you could take Rift or something like that and then go and look for extra turrets and stuff. Your game plan this game was camping mid. And yes, the Lux is behind, so is the Victor, of course. All your ganks mid were reactionary to the Diana going mid first, and you camped nothing but mid. You didn't try and gank bottom once, and you only went top as like a sacrifice. You killed the Garen once, and you died. So you're not playing towards at least what I think is your win condition, which might be part of the reason why you lost, but at the same time, you need to be thinking about these things. If you're not thinking about win condition, you do not have a solid plan, you're going to end up in situations like this where you can't kill the Garen. He's taken your towers. You can't kill the Diana. She's super fed because she's been camping this lane. And, your bottom wave, even though you have some pressure down here, right, you can't do anything with it because they'll just kill your base. You're too far behind as a team. Yeah. This is an example of a play that wasn't going to get anything anyways. So way back here, whenever your team's chasing, right, you're three people, right? Three people versus one. You're all magic damage, and he's a magic resist tank right now. You got a Fiddlesticks who's very fed over here, and you don't know where the Lux is. Actually, no, you do. She's down here. So you're looking at a 2 versus 3, which is okay, but you're not paying enough attention at this point to the gold lead. And the champion you're deciding to try and burst down is their tank, so that just doesn't work. And whenever you continue chasing this down, right, what would you get after this? You have no minion wave down here because the Lux just cleared it. You have no minion wave over here. Your only play that you could do would be doing Dragon, and at that point, the Lux and the Fiddlesticks could force you off of it. So you were doomed to get nothing after chasing this. Maybe 1 kill, maybe 2 kills, but nothing. That's not how you're going to get back into this game. You need to be getting an objective, and the objective that you want is turrets. How you're going to get turrets, you had an opportunity to get Herald, but you also have an opportunity here to have maybe one person run them away, let them base, and then go top with this wave and take a turret, take Herald afterwards. Again, you're not even thinking about this objective. Yes, that means you would sacrifice the dragon, but if they fucking want to do the dragon, that's great, because the wave that they were just clearing was way back here, and it's going to give you plenty of time then to respond to defend your next turret. This play was doomed to get nothing. So whenever you get back up, it's very likely that the enemy team is going to be rotating towards topside as a whole to try and respond eventually to this and get Baron pressure. They also might just be sieging mid like this because they are ahead. So, okay. 10k does do that. But there's that kill potential that you had bottom lane this whole time. You're in a very difficult position here. So, Fiddlesticks was the one who responded to the top wave. Whenever you have a wave like that, and the game is closer, you could usually use that to plan where people are going to be. Because you know they're going to respond to those minions, and you also know the objectives that are on the top side of the map, right? They got turrets on the outer here. In a closer game, this would be what they would be focusing. That huge wave and these turrets, the outer turrets. Since this game is not that close anymore, they're just pressing their advantage wherever they have it, which is essentially wherever they have 2 people. So to come back into this, your only real window is to get some picks, and the picks you need is on Diana and Fiddlesticks, which are very challenging picks, and then you need to be looking for Baron. That's the only thing you can do really to get back in at this point. I really don't like the Morello second. Yeah, okay, okay. This game's pretty much over. You guys are just dying it up. At this point, all the enemy team really needs to do is to go put a pink ward on Baron and then take Baron and walk it down mid or bottom. So they've kind of won the game at this point, and it's really hard for you to come back. But if again, let me go through and summarize things that you can work on. So for starters, your early vision. This is something that I did compliment on and also complain about. Whenever you start a game, do not be shy about pinging to watch something or asking your team to ward something if you're afraid. Because if you're not doing that sort of thing, like listen to this. If you think you deserve to climb, right, and that's why you're here in a way, right? Because you want to be a better player. If you're better, if you want to climb, you want to be a better player than you are. Then lead your team to victory, right? Lead your team to victory. Use your pings and use your words. Now, never talk about a play after it happened. That's flaming and it will never be interpreted as a good thing. But you can always say, "Hey, can you ward this?" or "Hey, can you stand here?" or "Ping this," or "Ping danger," or "Ping on my way." Those things are great. Those are great tools. If you're not going to do that, or if your team doesn't listen to you right away, you can always walk over and provide the vision yourself. So early vision is really important. Your later vision with your pink wards, you both need to be more free in using them, but also you need to be more cautious with how you use them. Whenever you place your pink ward over here, and I ranted about this for ages, but yeah, you know exactly why I was talking about this, right? It wasn't defending anything, and it wasn't an aggressive ward either. It wasn't allowing you to do something, and it wasn't denying them anything. This ward, it was too late to defend anything. This buff wasn't going to be up anytime soon. And the ward you ended up putting down would have shown you that Fiddlesticks gank. Next thing you need to be focusing on is less so on kills. You are hunting down these kills, all reactionary. All of your kills that you hunted down were reactionary. You came mid after the Diana was mid. You came mid after the Diana, or rather, not after the Diana was mid, but you did get here after her. You came here starting from whenever the Lux just looked juicy by herself. You came top after the Diana was there. And do you know why this was kind of an issue? It's because you don't have a plan. You don't have a plan when you're going through this game. You're not saying, I'm going to gank top. You're farming, and while you're farming, you're assessing the map, and you're like, oh, I guess that looks good. Which is okay, but you need to be looking at your plan is, I want to gank bottom. Then you come and you do Krugs while you wait for an opportunity to gank bottom. Your plan is, oh, I want to gank mid. So you go and you do Raptors while you wait for an opportunity. This is how you put yourself next to where you want to be without wasting time and without having to then think like, oh, I guess I should be going up when it's too late. If you were here and you were thinking about your gank, you would have been the first one there and you would have gotten the Lux. Maybe even got your Victor out. Next thing you need to focus on is, honestly, turrets is probably the biggest priority that you need to start focusing on. What kills will lead to turrets? What ganks will lead to turrets? Those are the important ganks. The teleport that you were going to get off of Garen after killing him meant nothing. And that just put you further behind. Because of that kill, for example, like the earlier the mistakes were made, this is what I was explaining about that first minute of the game. You were level 4, so whenever this was a thing, the Diana was coming into your jungle over here and the Garen was fighting you and shit, you were like level 5. You couldn't fight that. If you were 6, that would have been a different story. They couldn't fucking track you. You could ult them, all kinds of stuff, right? But these early mistakes, these cost you a lot. This time you went mid, wasting another minute, these things cost you. Another thing you need to consider is your pathing. Your pathing, you don't go to Krugs enough, and you even were walking down to them, and then you decided to base. That's wasted time to, for starters, walk down halfway. I don't know why you do that, but then to not actually go. Another thing I would consider is your build. Evelynn is a champion that should never be looking for that sustained fight. If you're worried about someone healing back, then you're playing the wrong champion, because you should kill them before they get that chance. And you've probably seen a death recap from someone else playing Evelynn or something like that says like 0.87 seconds or some shit. And that's because that's what that champ does. And I know you know this, but build for it. This item, the only reason you possibly would be building it is you're worried your team's not going to get grievous wounds for the fiddlesticks, and that's not your job. It's not your job. That denied you more kills that you could definitely have gotten. The next thing you need to focus on is Rift Herald and Dragon. Your clears, your ganks, and your presence throughout this entire game ignored these major neutral objectives. If I was to put a tier list of things, right? Tier like S is towers. If you can get towers, fucking do that. Get your tower. Tier A is Herald. I'm not talking about Baron. Baron is a tier of its own. Herald is tier A, because that's basically a turret if you're even, right? And Dragon is tier B. Kills are tier C, and wards are tier C. If you can get a valuable ward, you can guarantee yourself a kill or save someone's life. It's the same thing, and it can get you back into a game, and it can win you a game, and it can lose you a game. Vision is incredibly important, and kills kind of play into that same thing too. So C tier is wards and kills. And then, of course, sure, D is farming. You can always farm, right? But whenever you're thinking about risk, and then that always changes the value of these things. So you're not just going to fucking go and do Herald 1v1 whenever Diana's standing right behind you. So obviously that would be a stupid decision. If you're not assured the kill, then after you do your counting that I went through earlier in this review, then maybe you're not going to go for that either, because it's safer to just farm. Then that becomes a better investment. These are very dynamic values. All of a sudden, whenever you start losing and Herald is like half a turret, it's not as valuable as a Dragon, right? Dragon's more valuable. So those are, you didn't try anything for neutral objectives. I would also be a lot more cautious with your risky playstyle. You had several instances where you took fights where you saw people coming. And the way that I would start this is, I don't know if you look at the map a lot. Maybe you fucking look at the map and you only play looking at the mini-map. But if you don't see someone on the mini-map and you don't see that they're dead, then assume that they're in that fight. Because the way you're playing, whenever you go in like this, you've died multiple times over here mid lane, over here, to people that show up out of nowhere. And that shouldn't happen. And the way that you deal with this is you assume they're fucking always there, because you're counting maximum. And if you have vision that tells you otherwise, like you saw the Lux bot wave, great, then you don't have to count her. Check your minimap. If you see her and she's down there, great, you don't have to count her. But if you don't see them, then don't take the fights. And the time that you were coming up to the scuttle and the Diana was here, that could have just as easily been a full health Diana. And that would have changed your clear again. What if she forced you back there? All of a sudden, you're level 2 at 3.5 minutes then. It's very risky playstyle that you have, and this definitely ended up paying off, that what you ended up doing, because people make mistakes and other people are just as greedy as you. But it's kind of like looking at mechanics as a way to win games. Sure, you can have great mechanics, but if you only rely on your mechanics to win, then you're going to have a very fast glass ceiling, because you're not the best at this game. I'm not the best at this game. There's always someone who will outplay you, outplay me. There's someone who will catch your greed. That's exactly what happened here. So you need to start making decisions with a plan, and with less risk. If you are, for starters, like tracking the enemy jungler, right? You assuming Diana's bottom lane because her blue buff was spawning, right? That was my whole like point here. If you're assuming this, it's still just a guess, right? But it's assumption with, maybe a 70% accuracy, and that makes it a good risk because that 70% means that 70% of the time your decision is going to pay off, and that's all you need to win and climb, right? Above a 50%. So these assumptions, this implied knowledge, right? The ward thing that I was talking about earlier can be very valuable, but you need to start developing that skill so you can start making the bigger decisions, right? Like how you're going to get this fucking tower. You saw that Diana was down here, right? No, you didn't. But it was implied that she would be down here. So you knew you could get the Herald, and you knew you could come up and take this tower. Once you start being able to track people, know where they're going to be with implied vision, and making sure that whenever you do go in on these sort of fights, you count and evaluate your risk, you're going to have a lot less deaths because look at your KDA, 8 and 8. That shows that every time you win in, you die. Basically, that's what it means. Every time you win in, you die. That's not safe. That's not good risks. This is a 50-50 right there. That's basically what that is. Let's see. I would also try and definitely reassess your win conditions. Whenever you're starting a game, look at every lane matchup and think what will happen if it stomps, if it goes even, and if it falls behind. Because if a Victor Lux lane went even, right, they'd just both fucking clear the waves and nothing would happen. If a Teemo Garen lane went even, then, like what I said earlier, right, maybe he builds a lot of magic resist, so it doesn't happen, but it's going to be something where the Garen kind of roams around, which he did. He roamed mid. You saw him come and kill you, or attempt to, right? He came down here. He roamed around just because that's the way that lane goes. Alright, well, that's kind of the end of this review. I'm not actually going to finish out this game because they have so much control of the map and they have such a gold lead that it would take too many of their mistakes to bring you back into this game. Anyways, I hope some of this was helpful, and good luck, man.